What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and this is the Last Wish raid for dummies. The complete raid guide showcasing every single mechanic, every single strategy, every single tip that my team used to defeat this brand new raid in the Forsaken expansion for Destiny 2. And so, let's get started. Now, first things first, if you guys are here for a specific encounter, don't worry. Absolutely everything is timestamped in the description down below, so feel free to come back to this video whenever you need to look up specific encounters. Now, as you can imagine, defeating the Last Wish raid and completing this guide were no easy feats. In fact, my team was the first team in the world to beat Last Wish on a console. So guys, if you enjoy this video, if you find it helpful, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. It really does help. Now, on to the guide. The first thing I'm going to do is something I don't normally do for these type of complete raid guides, and that's raid requirements, because I don't want to get to the last boss fight and then say, okay, you guys need 2 hunters, and you guys are like, well, that information would have been very helpful at the beginning of the video, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, these are the things I would highly recommend. They aren't necessarily absolute requirements, but they are, again, highly recommended things that you should do for this raid. Firstly, power level. What power level should you be going in? Well, you can probably defeat the first encounter at around 540. Now, as for the second and third encounters, I would recommend 550, and beyond that, 556. Honestly, every single power level does matter. You want to be taking any advantages that you can get, because it's going to increase your survivability every power level you gain, and also increase your damage output as well. Preferably, you'd be going in at around 550 and leveling up from there. Now, as for class requirements, I would highly recommend 2 Warlocks that can use the new Well of Radiance Super, and also 2 Hunters. Moving on to weapon requirements, the Escalation Shotgun is very good in several encounters, the Sleeper Simulant is also very good, but the Whisper of the Worm exotic sniper rifle is near required for some of these encounters, so I would highly recommend you have access to that. Now, I know for some people that's a lot to ask for, but I have done guides on how to get most of those things, and especially the Whisper of the Worm. I've done an easy guide showcasing shortcuts and some kind of cheese spots and all of that stuff to make it a lot easier than you may have thought. Alright, so those are the requirements. Now let's get into the very first encounter, defeating Kalli. So, this encounter is going to feature a pretty large area, but there's a central pit, a circular pit in the very middle of this area. This is where everything's really going to go down. This is where the damage phase is going to happen. And around this pit, there's going to be 3 pairs of symbols, 3 sets of 2 identical symbols. And then in the background to this pit, there's a bunch more symbols out there, and each symbol is above a circular plate, essentially. And these plates are what you're going to have to stand on to do the mechanics of this encounter. So, the first thing you need to do is, I would recommend splitting your team up into 3 teams of 2. Each of those teams of 2 is in charge of defusing 2 of these symbols that you see above this central pit. So, for example, you may see that, oh, there's 2 infinity symbols right next to each other that are floating above this central pit. Then that means that you have to go in the background and find the plates that have the infinity symbols above them and stand on those plates to defuse the central symbols. Sounds a little complicated, but it's really just a giant game of mix and match. You're trying to get rid of the symbols around the pit by standing on those same symbols in the background. There's 6 symbols in total around the pit, 3 pairs of 2, there's 6 players on your team. Each player finds a corresponding symbol in the background and stands on the plate. Now, while you're standing on the plate, while you're there is going to be some stuff going on. Firstly, every single plate is divided into 3 separate sections. 2 of these sections have taken orbs on them. Now, these taken orbs kind of build up and then explode. If you're standing next to them, you will die. So you need to constantly be moving around your plate, avoiding those exploding taken balls and standing on the third that doesn't have one of those exploding balls. So you're just going to constantly move from one third to the other third to the other third as those balls are exploding and then respawning in a different third. Now, while you're doing that, there's going to be a bunch of taken thralls that are attacking you. Just kill them, and eventually, once you have defused your plate, a taken knight will spawn. You have to kill your taken knight in order for the symbol to go down in the center. So once you've stood on your plate for long enough and killed your taken knight, you can actually see the symbol in the center has disappeared. Once all 6 of those symbols are completely gone, then you're ready for a damage phase. But you can also look to the bottom left corner of your screen, and when you see the text, Kalli conceives an octagonal weapon, that also indicates that she's ready for a damage phase. So everyone on your team converges at that center pit and goes to town on Kalli. This is again where Sleeper Simulant and also Whisper, if you can hit your headshots, are very, very good. This is also a fantastic place to gather and then have a Warlock use one of their Well of Radiance supers. That will actually double your damage. Double it. And it stacks with other abilities. So if you can pop a Well of Radiance in the center and a Titan can go and use Melting Point as a Sunbreaker, that's going to stack upon itself and you're going to be doing something like 250% more damage. Very, very effective. However, the damage phase for this boss is actually broken up into 3 different parts. So after damaging her for a bit, you're going to see the text, Kalli prepares to wield her weapon. This means that she's going to do a wipe mechanic. If you don't do anything and you just keep damaging her, she will kill your entire team and you'll have to restart. So, when you see this text, she's going to lift her arms above her head and a giant glowing beam will start appearing as well. That's another indication that you should probably do something. Now, you will have a few seconds to get damage in on her, so don't run away like immediately. Get a few more shots in, but then you'll notice that underneath her on the pit, there's a bunch of kind of glowing doors and 6 of them have opened. Now, you have to run into all of these different doors, with each person claiming one and hide in here. The doors will actually close. She does her wipe mechanic, but if everyone is inside one of these little rooms here, they will be safe. The doors will open up again, and then you can continue damaging her. Now, in the center of the pit, a bunch of taken scions have spawned, so you're gonna have to get rid of them some way. Using a tether is actually very, very useful, but also just throwing a few grenades can get rid of them as well. So kill those guys, get back in the center of the pit, pop another Well of Radiance if you have one, and continue damaging her. However, she will have moved to another third of that pit, so she'll be slightly to the right or to the left of where you just damaged her. So you keep going, keep doing the same thing. Yet again, she'll prepare to wield her weapon, she'll start glowing. You know, as you head up to those doors, don't be afraid to pump a few shotgun rounds into her. Hide again, the doors close. She does another wipe mechanic, lets you back out, kill the scions and get back into the center, damage her again, and one more time that's going to happen. So 3 different times during this one damage phase, she's going to do that wipe mechanic. You're going to have to hide and come back out. And once she has done that 3 times, then she'll kind of disappear again. And if she's not dead, like, you can technically kill her in one damage phase, but if she's not dead, you're gonna have to go and defuse 6 different symbols again. Once you do, head back to the center, and it's the exact same mechanics all over again for another damage phase. And if you don't kill her then, you can actually go and do a 3rd damage phase. Basically, though, you want to kill her as quickly as possible, just because you don't want to be dying, and the longer this encounter goes on, the higher of a chance you have of people getting killed and you wasting your revive tokens. So once you kill her, enjoy your reward, and by the way, she can also drop your 3rd Seed of Light for a new super. Now, moving on from there, we have the 2nd raid encounter. However, while heading to the 2nd raid encounter, you're going to be going kind of underneath this bridge here. Feel free to drop down on one of the pillars, as you can see, and there's a hidden chest that you can get. Okay, now we have the second raid encounter, defeating Shuro Chi. Now, this is going to be a big DPS check, and also you're going to have to kill a ton of adds very, very quickly. As for the ton of adds, I would highly recommend you use at least one, preferably even two, Tether Hunters with the Orpheus Riggs exotic boot. That is going to make you just be able to produce a ton of orbs and keep the supers flowing so you can just run through these massive groups of enemies. Because as soon as this encounter starts, you're going to see a debuff in the left corner of your screen called Shuro Chi's Song. And there's actually going to be a timer. Whenever this timer gets to 0, your entire team will die. You lost the encounter. So you need to be doing things fast in order to prevent that. And that means you're first going to enter this room that opens up. You're going to have to kill these adds as quickly as possible and make your way beside Shuro Chi. She may spawn like one more wave of adds when you're getting close, but the closer you get, the quicker, the less waves of adds she actually spawns. Like if you're hanging back, she's going to just keep spawning waves of scions and thralls over and over again, but if you get right beside her, sometimes she won't spawn as many waves and just spawn, one and then let you do the next mechanic. So it's all about speed, killing fast, getting to her fast, killing her fast, all of that stuff. So once you have slain the adds and made your way to her, then she's going to spawn 3 different items on the 3 little plates that are around her. Now these items you can actually pick up, and when you're standing on the plate specifically, you can shoot a beam out of this item. Now what you're going to have to do is create a triangle with this beam around her, and that is going to lower her immunity shield and actually let you damage her. So 3 people from your team stand on this plate and all shoot each other. Now the easiest way to do this is that everyone shoots to the right. No matter where you are, no matter when you get on, it doesn't matter, just shoot the person to your right always, and that will make the triangle. Now, it actually does matter when you get on, I should say, because as long as you're on these plates, you take damage. So if you're standing on the plate waiting for your teammates to get on, you can actually die in that time period. So you're going to need to be able to communicate with your team and say, okay guys, 3, 2, 1, hop on at the exact same time so no one takes too much damage, and then shoot each other. You'll see her shield lower, and then we get to damaging her. Now when you're damaging her, she's going to be doing a wipe mechanic. Like, she will kill your entire team if you don't take away 1/6 of her health. And you'll notice that her health in the bottom of your screen is divided into 6 different chunks. So again, you have to take away 1 entire chunk. As soon as you do, she is going to become immune and she is going to teleport away. So you cannot do more than 1/6 of her health. So there's no point in going extra crazy. Once you start seeing immune numbers, back off. So in order to maximize your damage in this short time frame, I would highly recommend escalation shotguns. It was fantastic. Even just other shotguns in combination with another Well of Radiance super, melting point, anything to increase damage. However, you don't actually have to be right beside her. You can plant your Well of Radiance a little ways back, put up a rally barricade, or use Lunafaction boots or whatever, and then just use Sleeper Simulants or even Whispers and damage her from afar. In addition to that, if you're having trouble damaging her, you can actually stun her and slightly extend the time period in which she lets you damage her. And you do that with the Taken device, the Eye of Riven drop. Now, this is another mechanic of this encounter. There's going to be enemies that spawn, called Eye of Riven. Whenever you kill them, they're always going to drop a special object. Whenever you pick up that object, as you can see, you become Taken. You get a special new attack that does a ton of damage whenever you press the shoot button, and also you can use a super ability that's basically going to throw out a Taken version of the Nova Bomb. Now, it's this super ability that can be used on Shuro Chi to extend her time period in which she can be damaged. So your entire team is damaging, and then when she's just about to do her wipe mechanic, if someone with that Eye of Riven Taken orb does the super attack on her, she's going to stun and then just start doing her wipe mechanic again. But those extra few seconds can make all the difference. With that being said, you're absolutely not required to be doing this, and if you're killing her fast enough, and with escalations you probably are, then you can actually, kill the Eye of Riven, do the damage phase, and those taken orbs sit around for around like 45 seconds. You can actually go back, pick that up, and then use that taken orb on all of the other enemies that are spawning. In fact, the strategy that my team used that we found very effective is especially going into the command room, which we'll talk about in just a bit. You save that orb for that. Killing the enemies within that command room really, really fast is very, very important. Now with this taken orb, if you have picked one up, you'll actually notice another debuff that goes up to ×10. If you get ×10, you'll instantly die. So make sure to get out of it by using the super ability at ×8 or ×9. And as long as you have this buff, times whatever, you won't be able to pick up another one. So you have to rotate players as to who picks it up. So you're going to slay out on ads, get to her, lower her shield, DPS 1/6 of her health. She's going to move, do the same thing, kill ads, lower her shield, DPS her, and then after taking away 2 chunks of her health, and this is going to happen every time you take away 2 chunks of her health, unless it's the final chunk, you're going to be introduced to the command mechanic. So another door is going to open and you enter this room here with a 3x3 grid of the same little platforms that you stand on to shoot the laser beams at each other. Now, this time, 4 of your teammates are going to have to stand on the right 4 of these little platforms in order to accept the command. You're going to have to do 3 of these, so 3 different sets of standing on the right 4 platforms, accept 3 commands, and then you can progress to the next damage stuff. So, how do you know which are the right platforms to stand on? Well, you're going to look to your upper left, and there's going to be a symbol with parts of it grayed out. Specifically, 4 parts of it grayed out. So, as you can see from this picture right here, the portions that are grayed out are the very middle, the bottom middle, the left middle, and the left corner. So we're going to have to get a teammate to stand in the very middle plate, the bottom middle plate, the left middle plate, and the left corner plate. So one teammate stands in each of them and it will say command accepted. Then you look to the upper middle part of the room. There'll be another symbol with a different set of grayed out chunks. Stand on those platforms, accepted command. Lastly, there's going to be a third symbol to your upper right. Do the same thing and accept that command. However, there's a couple more mechanics to be aware of. So again, each platform needs to be stood on by a different teammate, 4 standing on all of those platforms at the same time. But if for whatever reason you get bumped off or shot off or jump off or move over one and try to stand back on that same one, it will actually be red. Like the platform itself will be kind of glowing red, and it will not complete because you're not able to go onto a platform and go on that same one ever again, basically. So if that happens, like your 4 teammates are standing on, but the chunk in the very middle isn't going away, even though you're standing on it, you know, oops, I must have crossed over this, it's red. Hop off and have one of your other 2 teammates switch with you and quickly jump on, and that can often complete the command. Now, these other 2 teammates, however, since they're not standing on these platforms, they need to be dedicated to killing ads as quickly as possible. So like one person with Arc Strider would be very helpful in this room because there are going to be taken phalanxes that spawn and they can bump you off of these platforms, and that's very, very bad. But it can be very confusing in this room and a lot of stuff are going on. So what I would recommend is if someone is red, if it's screwed up for whatever reason, everyone hop off, just reset, and then hop on different ones and accept the command that way. It's much easier than shouting, switch with me, who, me, I'm in the middle, and then by the time you switch, remember that just like the other plates where you're making that triangle, you're going to be taking damage on these plates. So you need to be doing this and hopping on and hopping off to accept commands as quickly as possible. So having everyone hop off at the same time and regroup is going to prevent them from taking damage and is just the easier approach. So once you do accept 3 commands in this room, the oracle that's above you is going to change and a platform is going to drop down. You can hop on this platform and then hop on another one and eventually make your way up into another area where there's a bunch of ads and you can see the boss in the distance you're going to have to make your way to. However, These oracle platforms can actually rotate if you stand on them for too long, so try to have your entire team jump there together, because if not, if a couple people jump there and then jump off and stuff, and then you try to get on, they'll flip around and it can just waste time. Now, once you accept the commands and make your way up to the second area, the mechanics are identical. It's just speed that needs to be your main priority. Now, remember that whenever those taken orbs, those taken laser beams do spawn to lower her shield, you'll see the note in the corner of your screen that her tempo quickens. When this happens, she's going to go down like 4 seconds per second. Like, the time is going to go much faster than usual, so you need to be taking down her shield as quickly as possible. So again, do that 2 more times, make your way to another command room, accept 3 commands just like you did, go up to the last section of this area, get to her by killing ads, lower her shield, damage her, and then you're going to be on the final chunk. And I mention this because stuff is going to change here. So, firstly, getting the Eye of Riven is very important because extending her duration is very important. She seems to have a little bit more damage resistance, and also it's a little bit harder to damage her in this last final section because, unlike every other time you damage her, this time ads are going to keep spawning. So you are constantly going to be shot at, you're going to be hit by stuff, and even if you don't die, you can recoil and flinch off of your target. So if you're trying to hit her in the head with a sleeper simulant, if you get hit in the side and then suddenly you hit her arm, like that's not great, right? So having someone with the Eye of Riven able to use that super and flinch her to extend the amount of time she can be damaged, that can often be essential in you completing this damage phase, and you need to. If you wipe, you have to start all over again. But if you are able to take down that last 6 of health, congratulations, you have now beaten this second encounter. And then we move on to the third encounter. But just like last time, on the way to the third encounter, you're going to have another hidden chest. Here's how to get to it. So, after getting that chest, we have the third encounter of the Last Wish raid against Morgeth the Spirekeeper, who will henceforth be referred to as Swolgaroth. So, this actually isn't that bad of an encounter in the sense that it actually goes pretty quickly. You don't have to damage this guy 6 times. You can actually 1-phase him if you're doing enough damage, but more likely than not, it's going to be a 2-phaser. So how you start this encounter is by going and getting that taken orb right next to Swolgaroth, and you're going to actually notice when you get this orb, you're going to have taken strength. This taken strength mechanic is the key to this entire encounter. So, the entire time you're doing this encounter, there is a constant possible wipe mechanic going on, in the sense that the more of those taken orbs that spawn, that you saw at the very beginning that you use to activate this encounter, the more Swolgaroth is going to gain strength. Once he gains strength to 100%, he'll wipe your team. So you need to prevent that. And how you prevent that is when those taken orbs spawn, those taken strength orbs spawn, you need to go and collect them as quickly as possible. The longer that more of them stay on the field, like if there's 3 up and they're staying there and no one's collecting them, then Swolgaroth is going to collect strength very, very fast. If there's only 1, he's still going to collect strength, but at a slower rate. So again, you want to be on top of that, collecting those taken strength buffs. Here's the thing. Taken strength isn't actually a buff, like it won't affect how much damage you do really or anything like that, and if you get times 3, you will instantly die. So getting times 2 is the sweet spot. Times 2 is going to let you, actually progressively hunt for those taken orbs and make sure that Swolgaroth doesn't gain too much strength, but also make sure that you don't die. But here's the thing, whenever you have taken strength times 2, and sometimes when you have ×1 because it's a little bit glitchy, but whenever you have Taken Strength ×2, Swolegroth can sometimes put you in a Taken Tornado. When that's happening, you will not be able to move, and in the left corner of your screen, you'll have a timer. Once it reaches 0, you will die. So you want to prevent this. How do you do that? Well, you actually have to go and kill the Eye of Rivens yet again. Killing them is going to, as always, drop that Taken Orb that you can pick up to turn into kind of a special Taken guy. Use those same attacks to clear ads very, very quickly, but you're actually going to have a brand new ability, and you can see this ability down in the corner of your screen, replacing your grenade symbol. So, when you use your grenade button, while you have that Taken Orb from the Eye of Riven, you're going to cleanse an area. And this is going to come up for this mechanic and several others, but for this specifically, you're going to need to grab one of the Eye of Riven drops, turn into the Taken guy, go over right next to whoever is in that Taken Tornado, and use that cleanse ability. Press your grenade button, and then you will kind of explode outward, lose this Taken Orb, like you're going to go back to your normal abilities, but also you're going to free the person from that Taken Tornado, and most importantly, you're going to take their Taken Strength. This is key. So, again, if you have ×2 strength, you can go into the tornado. But if you have ×3, you will instantly die. So you need to have the person grabbing the Eye of Riven drop who doesn't have any Taken Strength. If they have ×1 and they go and free someone, they're going to take their ×2, ×3 in total, they're going to instantly die. You don't want that. So that's how you need to play this encounter. Have some people aggressively seeking out Taken Strength to take the blights off the field, and others staying clean to get the Eye of Riven and potentially take on ×2 Taken Strength. However, a key piece of the puzzle is that the Eye of Rivens are not going to spawn evenly. You're probably going to have to split your team up, 3 on the right side, 3 on the left side, just because when you're up on these sides, firstly the Taken Strength things are going to spawn usually up on the sides, but also just because if you're in the middle, you're way too likely to be destroyed by ads. So being up in the sides and having cover there is essential. And the spawn points of the Eye of Riven are going to be 2 on the right, kind of upper right, lower right, and 2 on the left, upper left, lower left as well. But again, the Eye of Rivens are not going to spawn evenly. There won't be an Eye of Riven to the right all the time. Sometimes there's just going to be a normal yellow bar Taken enemy, and other times there will be an Eye of Riven. So sometimes you're going to get 2 Eye of Riven spawns on the right side. What do? Because often someone on the left is going to be taken by the Taken Tornado, and then you got to run over, and there's chaos and turmoil, and your team wipes. So what I would recommend, and what my team did, is have about 1 person each side with no Taken Strength ready to grab those Eye of Riven orbs. But whenever you do grab that Eye of Riven orb, start to kind of move to the middle and be able to go to either side. So whatever person gets trapped in that Taken Tornado, you can go to the right or left side and save that single person. It's going to allow, 4 people to be very aggressive about grabbing Taken Strengths and not have to really worry about having someone on their side with the Eye of Riven ready to save them. And that's also going to prevent the scenario where 2 people on the right side, for example, both get trapped in the Taken Tornado over a period of time, and no one can save them because everyone is full on Taken buffs. If you have that person with the eye rotating in between sides, that can prevent that entirely. But after a certain period of time where you are doing this, where you are collecting as much of those Taken Blights as possible, where you are spreading apart the Taken Strength buffs as much as possible around your team, then Swolegroth is going to spawn a special Taken Orb in the very center. It's going to be in the exact same location as the Taken Blight was that you used to start off this encounter. Once you see that middle one, someone needs to collect that, and whenever someone collects that, it's going to begin the damage phase. So what you're going to want to do is, as soon as you see that special orb spawn, you go, guys, okay, damage phase is coming. Everyone gets to a central area to get ready. Someone who obviously has ×1 or 0 Taken Strength goes and collects that final orb, and then Swolgroth is going to rise up, and finally he's not going to be immune anymore. His back will be really kind of bulgy and gross, but you can shoot his back, this massive bulge on his back, and that's going to give you crit numbers here. Now, as I said at the beginning, Whisper of the Worm is near essential for this encounter. It's so good for this. You always get crit numbers when damaging his back. So it is incredibly easy to just throw down a Well of Radiance, and everyone uses their Whisper and just goes to town on Swolgroth. And again, you are able to technically one-phase this if you do enough damage. However, this damage phase does have an endpoint, because as you're DPSing him, he is going to still gain strength up to 100%. When he does, he'll wipe your team. And that's why it's so important to be collecting those taken strength blights as quickly as possible, because the faster you collect them, the less strength he will have going into the DPS phase, and the more time you'll have to actually damage him. So you have two options here. Number one, kill him before that happens. DPS the absolute crap out of him before he gets to 100% and you will win this encounter. Or number two, which is much more likely, you're going to have to stun him and do another damage phase, a second damage phase, and even technically a third damage phase as well as possible. Now, as for option number one, you really need a full team of masterworked Whisper of the Worms, like all aiming down sights to get the Whispered Breathing buff and just going to town with Well of Radiance and whatever else you can possibly get. However, this is going to come up, in future encounters as well. Well of Radiance is definitely bugged right now with Whisper, so whoever the actual Warlock is who puts down their Well of Radiance, which was me often, you will not be able to get the Whisper buff. So you'll shoot a guy 3 times, get 3 crits, and you'll have to reload. It's really annoying. I hope Bungie fixes it, but that's where we are right now. It should also be noted that when you're damaging Swolgroth, he is going to eventually let out a ton of seeking taken orbs to go and kill you. You have to have someone dedicated to peeling away and taking out these taken orbs, because they will demolish your team even if you're all standing inside a Well of Radiance buff. But what about option number 2, going to that second or third damage phase? How do you do that? Well, you're going to need to save one of the Eye of Riven orbs, because as you're damaging him, it's going to build strength and build strength. But if someone with that taken orb uses their super and does the taken Nova Bomb on his back, then he is going to reset. He's going to recoil back, his back is going to deflate, he'll no longer be able to be damaged. Instead, he's going to go back to 0% strength and start gaining it again. So just like you did before, you're going to have to, go around, kill ads, collect taken strength buffs, someone gets an Eye of Riven to free whoever gets trapped, and you just make your way to a second damage phase and then finish him off, hopefully. Now here's the thing, an Eye of Riven doesn't spawn specifically during the damage phase. You basically have to keep one alive, and that's why it's super important to really only dedicate one person at a time to freeing the people trapped in the tornado, so you can just keep an Eye of Riven kind of alive, or kill one at the very end, at the last second, just before you go into the damage phase, so it sits there for like 40-ish seconds, and then someone peels away and grabs it, when he's at 80 or 90%, shoots him in the back when he's at 90%, and then resets the damage phase. And guys, that's really all there is to it. Communication is key, letting people know how much taken strength you have, who is in the tornado, keeping on top of someone free of taken strength to, help those people getting to that damage phase, keeping an Eye of Riven alive or around to get to that second damage phase, and there you have it. Now, moving on from there, we have one of the most complicated raid encounters of all time with the Vault. So, you're going to begin this encounter by having 3 people stand on 3 plates that are surrounding this sphere in the very center of this arena. Now, when they are standing, all 3 on these 3 plates, the sphere is going to rotate and display 3 symbols that are going to look somewhat like this. However, your 3 symbols will always be random. It's a random 3 symbols, and there's a lot of symbols that could possibly be shown here. So, a good idea is to do this just a few times and start to stack standardized symbols, like, fish diving. This is a fish diving. Everyone agree on that. Okay, this is, a dragon looking to the left or whatever. Having to describe these symbols on the fly and saying, it's a bird. I don't know. It's kind of normal looking. It's on a branch. I don't know. That can take up some precious time, because this is another timed encounter where you're going to have to do things rather fast. So kind of being able to standardize symbols and get your entire team on point, well, actually not your entire team, just the 3 people that are going to be standing on the plate on point and in agreement with what symbols are is very, very important. Now, what are these symbols' purpose? Well, you use them to inform you about what buff your specific plate needs. So, there are 2 buffs to be aware of. Number 1, there's Antumbra, which will henceforth be referred to as Ant. Ant equals right. Then, there's Penumbra, henceforth referred to as Pen. Pen equals left. Remember that. Ant equals right, Antumbra equals right, Penumbra equals left. So, you are using these symbols to determine whether or not your specific plate that you're standing on needs to be cleansed with an Ant buff or a Pen buff. So, how do you figure that out? Well, essentially, you're really concerned about your middle symbol. There's going to be a middle, little bit larger symbol that is going to be the thing that you're looking to match. So, generally, the easiest way to do it is to have the person in the middle shout out their middle symbol, and then whoever is matching that middle symbol speaks up, and then that person says their middle symbol, whoever is matching that speaks up, and then do all 3 people. So, to determine what buff you need on your plate, you shout out your middle symbol. For this example, I would say, I have 2 fish swimming in a circle. Whoever has that exact same symbol speaks up and says, I also have a 2 fish swimming in a circle symbol. It's to the left side of my 3 symbols. Whoever matches you will either have that match on the left of their symbols or the right. It'll never be the middle matching your middle. So in that case, where I shout out my dual fish symbol and someone matches it and it's on their left side, then left equals pen, left equals penumbra. You need a penumbra buff to cleanse your plate. Let's do another example because it is kind of complicated. So your middle symbol is a bird looking over its shoulder. You say, all right, I've got bird looking over its shoulder. Someone says, oh, I also have that symbol. To me, of my 3 symbols, it's on the right side. So you have right, right equals ant. You need an Antumbra buff on your specific plate. Now, while the 3 people on the plates are figuring out what buff their plate needs, the other 3 people need to be assigned 1 person to each plate holder to defend them, because there is going to be ads that spawn, and if you're not looking after your person trying to figure out all this stuff, then he might die. Okay, so once you've determined what buff your plate needs, then you have to go out and get this buff. How do you do that? Well, there's going to be 3 rooms essentially that are surrounding this central sphere. Now, labeling these rooms and having everyone agree on the labels is very, very important. What we went with was, there's one that's clearly in a jungle, has a big tree. That one is tree. Then there's one with a giant spherical ball with purple lights. That one is just ball. And the last room over to the side has a big rock in the middle, so it's rock. And it doesn't matter what you guys name these 3 rooms, just all agree on the name. So if you refer to rock, then everyone knows what room they're talking about. Now, a short while after starting the encounter, figuring out what buff your plate needs, defending the person figuring that out, of these 3 rooms, 2 of them will have big kind of black walls envelop them and block them off from entering. 1 room will remain clear and you can go into this room. Now this one specific open room is the one you want to focus on. So everyone kind of converge on this area, kill a bunch of ads. Once you kill all the ads in this room that are kind of spawning, an Eye of Riven will spawn. This guy yet again. Then once you kill this Eye of Riven, 1 person needs to go in and grab that taken orb that spawns off them every single time. Now you definitely do want to assign people to, okay, you are going to run the first eye, you are going to run the second eye, and you are going to run the final and third eye. Now, who you assign to running these eyes really doesn't matter too much. It is kind of easiest to have 3 people designated to figuring out what buff their plate needs. The other people defending them, those will be the eye runners. But regardless, someone runs in and grabs the eye. As soon as they do, then another black wall is going to envelop that previously open room, and anyone inside is now trapped inside. Once this happens, another room's wall is going to go down and open up. So you need to communicate to whoever is trapped inside where to go. Now, speaking of that, the only person who gets trapped inside should be the person actually picking up the orb. Everyone else should stay outside of that room and shoot into it just to make sure they don't get trapped. If you are inside the room and you do get trapped, just travel with the person with the Eye of Riven, take an orb, and then come out the same way they do. But how do you get out of these rooms? Well, there's going to be 2 secret tunnels, one on the right and one on the left. Going through these secret tunnels are going to lead to the other room. So all of these rooms here, rock, tree, and ball, they're all connected by these tunnels. So you get trapped in one, your team needs to say, okay, Rock just got trapped. Rock was open, but now Rock is trapped. You need to head to your right and go to ball. Then you go through that tunnel, you end up in the ballroom, it's going to be open again, and you come out, and this is when you need to be looking at the left corner of your screen, and you'll see the word Penumbra or Antumbra. By the way, the other debuff located in this corner of your screen, Vault Security Mechanism, is just the time you have to cleanse all 3 of the plates before your entire team wipes. Now, as for Penumbra or Antumbra, these are random. There's no way you can guarantee you get one of them. You're going to get, either one of these 2 different buffs. So that's why, again, all these steps leading up to this have been determining what buff each plate needs. So, if you have Penumbra, you need to say, I've got Penumbra, and then your team says, okay, my plate needs Penumbra, go and cleanse my plate. So you go to a plate that needs the Penumbra buff that we talked about determining before, then you use the cleanse thing, your grenade button, same button you use to free people from the Taken Tornado, that's going to cleanse that plate, and then you've done this objective. So you're going to need to do this same thing 2 more times to defuse all 3 plates, and then that's 1 round. You have to do 3 rounds in total, so get used to doing these mechanics quite often. However, during the time that someone has killed an Eye of Riven and has picked up one of their orbs and is making their way to the right plate, there's going to be a Taken Knight that spawns. This Taken Knight is going to head to a random plate and plant his sword in it, and within a few seconds of planting his sword in this plate, you will experience a wipe mechanic. Your entire team will die. So, the person that's running the orb is running the orb. Everyone else needs to be looking for this knight to spawn. It spawns out of one of these 3 rooms, and it doesn't matter whether the room is open or it has one of the taken walls blocking it off. It's a random chance that the knight just kind of walks out of there and heads straight for one of those plates. So kill that knight as quickly as possible. Now, the second person who runs to defuse the second plate is going to cause 2 knights to spawn, and the third person to defuse the last plate is going to cause 3 of these Taken Knights to spawn. So you really need to be on top of this. Escalation shotguns or any type of shotgun is not bad, but also stunning them with Whisper or Sleeper is actually very, very good for this. 1 shot kind of recoils them backwards, and you can get a few more after that, but you really need to be on top of killing these knights. Now, a tip that I have for you guys, and it's something my team did to make things a lot easier, because your plate can only be one of 2 buffs, Penumbra or Antumbra, basically you just need to determine the odd man out. So, 2 people are going to be Pen, for example, and 1 person is going to be Ant. So the person who's Ant says, okay guys, tree is Ant. Tree is Ant. Really repeats that, everyone understands, and then when you get the buff, well, if you're Ant, you know exactly where you're going. You're going to tree. But if you're Penumbra, you go to either of the other 2. Like, it doesn't matter. They both need Penumbra. And the same scenario works if it's the opposite way. If there's only 1 Pen but 2 Ants, call out, be very specific which side has Pen, which plate needs a Penumbra buff. Because again, whoever has that buff knows exactly where to go. Whoever has the opposite buff just goes to the opposite too. and it'll work out in a way that you go to one of the opposite ones, someone gets the buff, they go to the specific one, and then whoever's last, well, it doesn't matter. They go to just whatever one is remaining, and you can quickly tell which ones are remaining because they will have like a swirly little Taken mini tornado going on them, and you know, okay, this one has not been cleansed. So if you're the third person, take a quick look and just realize, oh, this is the only one with that Taken effect going on it. This is the plate that needs to be cleansed. And that's really all there is to it. It's just determining what buff your plate needs by whoever has a matching symbol to your middle symbol, to their right or left, and then cleansing the appropriate plate with the appropriate buff, doing that multiple times while defending plates from adds and especially the Taken Knights, and then you will have defeated the vault and moving on to the big bad boss fight of Riven. So if you thought vault was complicated, whew, Riven is a whole nother level. So we talked about class requirements for the raid at the beginning of the video so I wouldn't ambush you guys with this information, but here is where it's really essential to have 2 hunters and 2 warlocks. 2 golden gun hunters with preferably the Celestial Nighthawk exotic helmet, and 2 warlocks both using Well of Radiance. So, you're going to begin this encounter in this big arena. There is a massive Taken sphere in the very center, and around the center is going to be 6 different plates. You need to have 1 person standing on each of these 6 different plates in order to start the encounter. However, this isn't just something that you do willy-nilly. You need to really remember what plate is yours and how to find it. Now, something very quickly to determine that is going to be one side has a big crystal near it and one side has a tree near it. These are going to be denoting the 2 different rooms you can go to, Crystal Room and Tree Room. Now these rooms have the exact same layout, but instead of a piece of cover being your crystal, it's going to be a tree. In the exact same spot though. But again, you need to remember which plate you're standing on because it's definitely going to come up later. Once all 6 people are standing on these 6 plates, you're all going to drop down 3 floors, and while you're dropping down, here is your first view of Riven, the massive raid boss you need to defeat. Also, you may notice these weird little scabs on him. Keep note of that. Now, you're going to fall, then you're going to start descending slowly, and make your way to one of these rooms. The easiest way is to just turn to the right. The 3 people falling down on tree side, if they look to their right, they go to the tree room, and the people crystal side, same thing. If they look to the right, it's the crystal doorway for going into the crystal room. But you do need to split up your team 3 and 3. Now each group of 3 should have one of the Celestial Nighthawks and one of the Well of Radiance Warlocks. Now, once you enter into these rooms, as you can see me do in the background, the first thing you want to do is jump up to the upper level, just because there's going to be a lot of adds, and if you're at that lower level, you're going to be swarmed. And then you just go about killing adds. Now, the first thing you need to prioritize is the Taken hobgoblins that spawn. There's going to be 2 waves of 2 on each side, so 4 in total, that are going to spawn, and they will do a ton of damage. They can one-shot you if you're too low of light. You really need to prioritize killing these guys quickly. That's why I'm using a bow. Bows are actually very, very good in this encounter because they do a ton of damage per shot. You can take down those hobgoblins very, very fast, and there's going to be a ton of Taken scions in the bottom too, so explosive tipped bows are going to just destroy those guys as well. Now, using a sniper isn't actually a terrible idea because a shotgun is pretty useless in this encounter, but a sniper may have some ammo concerns. You run out of ammo and then you're suddenly in big trouble, whereas a bow really won't have that issue. And while we're talking about weapons, you're gonna need the Whisper for this as well. So, what is going to happen in these rooms, aside from just killing adds? Well, both sides of your team, both groups of your team, will have to deal with Riven in different ways. One group of 3 is going to have to flinch Riven. The other group of 3 is going to be able to damage Riven. Now, this is going to be random. He might require a flinch in the crystal room, he might require a flinch in the tree room. It's going to change pretty much every time, or it's going to stay the same every time because, again, it's random. So, if you come into your side and Riven is there, he's sticking his head through that portal, and he's pretty unmissable. Then that means you're gonna have to flinch him. Now there's two different ways to flinch him depending on what he is doing. If he's sticking his head out and there's a bunch of tentacles waving around, then you have to bait a tentacle and flinch the tentacle that tries to hit you. Now you do that by having whoever is using the Celestial Nighthawk Hunter run up to underneath the tentacle on his left side, and then you'll hear a sound cue, and then you quickly jump away, you run away. He will smash that tentacle at exactly where you were, so that's baiting the tentacle. You run in, hear the sound cue, run out, and get that smash. When he smashes, everyone in the room will be kind of shot up into the air from that smash, but then the Celestial Nighthawk, as they're being shot up into the air, pops their super, aims, and shoots his tentacle. One Celestial Nighthawk shot will do enough damage to flinch the tentacle. He'll recoil back, and very importantly, his mouth, his face will kind of open up, and 2 of his 10 eyes will be glowing. This is going to come up quite a bit because the other team is going to have to shoot those specific 2 glowing eyes that you saw in the other room, because they are not going to be glowing for the team that didn't flinch. All the eyes will look perfectly the same. Now, he has 10 eyes. How do you determine which 2 to shoot? Like, how do you possibly communicate that? Well, again, it's going to be different for whatever team. Use whatever strategy you want to use, but everyone needs to be on the same page for what denotes each eye. So if you want to have like number 1 on the furthest left and number 10 on the furthest right, and say, okay, shoot eyes 7 and 3, right? And as long as the other team knows exactly what you mean by eyes 7 and 3, that's good to go. What my team used is he kind of has 2 eyes in the very center of his face, kind of like normal eyes. We basically split his head right down the middle, and we had left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, with 5 being in the middle, and then right 1 starting in the middle, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the furthest right. Just so you can hear, left 3, right 2, and kind of just where to look on his head. You want to look for the left side of his head and then determine, okay, here's number 3. Then you want to look for the right side of his head and determine, okay, here's number 5. And if you hear left 2, left 3, you know that both are on that left side. It just kind of make things easier. Right off the bat, you can determine, 50% you can cut off right away for where an eye location might be. By the way, here's something that may help. My teammate actually drew this out, and here I am showing it to you guys. Even though his eyes are kind of sometimes above other ones, they always move over to the side. Like number 1 on the left, then there's number 2. Number 2 is always going to be a little bit more right. Even though it may be lower or higher, it's always going to be moving horizontally, right? So he does zigzag around his face with his eyes, but they're always spread apart horizontally, and that's a great way to determine which ones to actually shoot. So, I mentioned the tentacle thing as one of the ways to flinch him. The other way that you may have to flinch him, and again, these 2 ways that he's going to present are random every time, is to shoot his mouth. So, his head's going to be sticking through, and this time he's going to be breathing, kind of taking fire at you. You want to hide from this, like avoid him, and then after he breathes the taken fire, his mouth will glow red. The person with the Celestial Nighthawk puts 1 round right into his mouth, and that's enough to flinch him. Then his face will open up, he'll have 2 glowing eyes. You say, okay, left 3, right 3. Left 3, right 3. The guys on the other side go, okay, left 3, right 3, we've got it. And then, if you're on the DPS side, what's going to happen is you kill ads, you kill ads. By the way, there's going to be Eyes of Riven as well. You want to kill these guys pretty quickly, but not collect their orbs just yet. Anyways, if you're on the DPS side, if you're on the side where Riven is not, you're just going to kill ads until you hear that shout out. You're going to hear left 3, right 3. You're going to hear the command for the eyes you need to shoot coming from the other team. Then you know it's go time. Head to the center, pop a Well of Radiance. Like, this is basically essential. It's going to let you do more damage. It's also going to let you survive from the scions that continuously spawn. Then Riven is going to stick his head through your little opening, and he's going to open his mouth, and there's a taken blight in the middle of his mouth. You shoot the crap out of this blight, and you're going to do damage to him. So again, Whisper is absolutely fantastic. Something we discovered here by accident is that if you have a Titan, and they're using the Syncocepts exotic gauntlets, for whatever reason, the buff, I think, interacts with the Well of Radiance, and gives you 50% bonus damage if there's 3 enemies nearby, which there will be because of the million scions. So you're capable with a Titan to output like 1,000,000 damage in this short time frame. But in any event, you shoot his mouth for a certain period of time. I would recommend something like around 6 or 7 sleeper shots, and then you want to have someone focus on the eyes. Usually the easiest thing to do is just have the hunters that are in charge of flinching him. They're the ones that flinch him, they're the ones that call out the eyes, and they're the ones that shoot the eyes. Like, they're in charge of eyes. So you have your hunter, or you can do this with multiple people on your team, doesn't really matter, but you need to shoot those 2 eyes that are called out in a very quick time frame. So you need to shoot left 3, aim over, right 3, you shoot those 2 eyes, then you're good. You have gone through this slight damage phase. If you shoot the wrong eye, you instantly die. Heck, even if you shoot the right eye, sometimes it doesn't pop. This is a very glitchy encounter, so just get ready for that. But if you do shoot those 2 specific eyes, he kind of recoils and goes away, you're good to go. Then what you're going to need to do is activate the elevator to get up to the 2nd floor. So how do you do this? Well, first things first, you're going to need to get someone in your squad of 3 to go and pick up the taken orb from the killed Eye of Riven. Again, you should have time to kill the Eye of Riven and then flinch Riven or do a damage phase on Riven, and then it'll still be around. It lasts for like 40 seconds. Send someone to go and pick it up. Now, once that person picks it up, he, as you can see me do, looks back in the center of this arena, and he can see a bunch of symbols, all one on top of each other. Your job is to call out what symbol you have. Another person in your squad of 3 goes to this area, as you can see me do, and this is the looking glass. If you look through this glass, you can see all of these symbols around the room. The other person cannot see these, so your job is to direct the person with the eye to go and cleanse on their specific symbol. So, in our case, my teammate said, okay, I've got dragon on a pole off to the right, and I look and I saw dragon on a pole was at the very top to the left, so I said, okay, very top, middle, to the left slightly. He moves over. Once he's on it, I say, yep, there it is, and he needs to confirm. He needs to say, right here, like here's where I cleanse, and I say, yep, you're on it. Then he uses that grenade button to cleanse that area. He gets the right symbol, and the elevator is open. You move to that elevator. Now, some important things. Number 1, if you cleanse the wrong symbol, you will instantly die. So that's not good, and make sure you communicate and really make sure you do confirm. You say this one, the one I'm at right now, and your teammate says, yes, this one, okay? Also, when you are moving around, when you are being instructed on where to go, you can see the faint outlines of these symbols when you get to them. So you stand in a faint outline, you kind of see where the symbol is, and then again confirm with your teammate on where you are. Also, in terms of directions, you need to really communicate and determine which direction is whose perspective. Usually it's the guy in the looking glass, it's his right and his left. It's easier to call out that way. And obviously, if you're facing each other, you're gonna have different right or lefts. Like, just make sure you're all on the same page, because otherwise it's gonna take way too long. In any event, once you do cleanse of the right symbol, you're going to head to the back, as you can see us do, head up the elevator, and you're going to get to the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor is exactly like the 1st floor, except Riven is going to switch on you. So, if he came out to your team and required a flinch, then he's coming out to the other team on floor 2 and requiring a flinch from them. So that means if on the 1st floor you didn't do a DPS phase, on the 2nd floor you will do a DPS phase and you will have to shoot those 2 eyes. So once you're done either damaging Riven or flinching him on the 2nd floor, you're going to grab that taken orb, do the exact same thing with the looking glass and matching the symbols, and then you're going to open up the other elevator, but this one is not going to be at the back anymore, it's going to be at the very center of this arena. Now, once your team jumps in this elevator, they head up to the 3rd floor, and the 3rd floor is where you initially began this encounter, and this is going to be the biggest damage phase where all 6 of you guys are together. So, when you're on this 3rd floor, Riven is going to stick his head through one of the openings, and it's not random this time. It does seem to be the same opening every time, so you can memorize where he's going to begin. Go to this area, like you're going to be sticking to the very center of this arena because there is some cover, but you need to be at a position where you can shoot Riven, or specifically where you can flinch Riven, because what's going to happen is that he's going to stick his head through, again, one of these areas, and he's going to require a flinch. Just like before, you need to have your Celestial Nighthawk Hunters hit him either with the tentacle by running out, baiting the tentacle, and then he smacks the ground shooting that tentacle, or if he's breathing flame, shoot him in the mouth. Then he moves to the right to another opening. You go and you flinch him again. He moves again. You flinch him again. He keeps moving. You keep flinching him until the final opening that he hasn't been to yet. And this is the damage phase. So just having 2 Celestial Nighthawks here is so helpful because when one flinches Riven, he's going to produce 2 orbs for getting a precision shot. For the other guy to flinch Riven the next time, he's going to produce 2 orbs, and they're just going to chain off each other, alternating flinches. And again, having Well of Radiance is near essential here. There's a ton of stuff shooting at you. I can't imagine doing this without Well of Radiance. And also that's going to produce orbs for the Celestial Nighthawks, so they always have that up. And for your other Well of Radiance, because you should have 2 that you're chaining together where you can always be in a Well of Radiance to stay alive. Now, what about the other supers? Well, we had 2 Hammer Titans going nuts every time they could to kill a bunch of enemies very quickly and also produce orbs for the more essential supers like Golden Guns and Well of Radiances. Now, here's something about the flinching mechanic. If for whatever reason your teammate misses or they don't have a Celestial Nighthawk, you can flinch with just guns. So you go, bait the slam, he slams with his tentacle, everyone goes to town with the whisper, and you can still flinch him. Same goes for his mouth. Once it glows red, everyone goes to town, and you can still flinch him. This also applies to the lower rooms, but it's much harder to do so with only 3 people, and you will need something like the whisper or the sleeper, something that packs a lot of punch very accurately. You're not going to be able to just primary flinch him. In any event, back to that 3rd floor, while you're trying to flinch him, there's a lot of stuff going on, but mainly there's ogres. These ogres are going to shoot you with apparently some specially annoying stuff that is going to really move you around. It's going to flinch you like crazy, and it'll actually push you outside of the Well of Radiance, and most importantly, it's going to push you outside of getting clean shots on him and his eyes, which are absolutely going to come up. So while your hunters are flinching, everyone else needs to be focused on killing ads and killing these ogres really, really quickly. There's going to be 2 ogres that always spawn on either side of where he sticks his head out. Kill the left one first, because if you need to bait a tentacle slam, the hunter needs to go to that left side, so they can't be going right next to the ogre. So kill the left ogre first, then focus on the right ogre. Sometimes those ogres are going to be immune. It's because they are getting immunity from the taken Vex. So you need to be on top of killing those guys, or else those ogres are going to become invincible. So, while all of this is going on, and you're moving around this arena, flinching him, then moving to the right, flinching him again, moving to the right, flinching him again, moving to the right for the final damage phase, just like before, when you flinch him, 2 of his 10 eyes will be glowing. So that means you flinch him 3 times. That means 6 eyes are going to be glowing. And that means for that final damage phase, you need to shoot all 6 of those previously glowing eyes at pretty much the same time. You have about 1 second to shoot all correct 6 eyes. So how you do that, and the way we did that, is each person of your 6-man fire team gets assigned 1 single eye. And again, it's up to your hunters, or preferably hunter. One person in charge of everything is kind of going to be an easier way to delegate what to do here. So one person says, okay, Cacus, you're shooting left 2, and then someone else, you're shooting right 3. Then he's going to expose 2 more glowing eyes. All right, someone else, you shoot left 1, and someone else, you shoot right 5, or whatever it's going to be. You assign one person 1 eye every time 2 appear and are glowing. Now, as for the people being assigned eyes, you can either A, just remember it, or B, what I would actually recommend is literally write it down. Like when you get assigned, you have to shoot right 2. I had a Word document open and I would literally write R2, so I knew exactly what to shoot. Then, just before the damage phase, I would just take a quick look, yep, right 2, remind myself, and shoot the right one. And a little scrap of paper will do the trick as well, but during that damage phase, he's going to have that kind of taken sphere in his mouth again. That's what you want to shoot. All 6 people absolutely go ham with Well of Radiance and Whisper of the Worms. Do as much damage as you can, but then you're going to have to shoot the eyes. Now, there isn't necessarily a super great indication of when to shoot the eyes. You're just going to have to do it enough times and kind of get the timing down for yourself. But I would recommend here, and what we use is kind of 6 or 7 Whisper shots, and then that will give you enough time to get some good damage in and focus on the eyes. So after shooting 6 or 7 Whisper shots, then it's eye time. Now you may have noticed that I only take 3 shots before looking to the eye, and that's because I'm a Well of Radiance Warlock, and that screws up Whisper like I've stated, so I want to make sure that I'm ready to shoot that eye on time, and I'm not caught reloading, or I only have 1 Whisper shot, so if I miss, I'm totally screwed. But again, these eyes need to be shot at basically the exact same time, so you need to count down with your team, 3, 2, 1, shoot eyes. Everyone shoots eyes at around the same time. If you hit the 6 correct ones, he will recoil backwards, and you have completed this damage phase. Now, you may notice that you didn't actually do as much damage as you may be expecting, but don't worry, there's actually a second part of this damage phase. So, finish off the ads. There's probably going to be, an ogre or 2 wandering around. Hopefully you can kill those ogres before the damage phase so you can just focus on shooting him. And you really don't want those ogres shooting you while you're trying to shoot the eye, because if you recoil off the eye by getting flinched, it's super, super bad. You will cause your entire team to wipe. Actually having any titans in your group, use the tower barricade to block the shots of the ogre. Like before the damage phase, they put up a tower barricade that will block the ogre's view of you, but you can still focus directly ahead at Riven. That's not a bad idea. In fact, that's what we did to help us prevent that scenario. But in any event, you flinch him by shooting the correct eyes, you kill off the last few ads, and as soon as you kill off that last ad, you need to run as fast as possible to your plate, because you're actually going to get a debuff, and once you get to times 10, you'll instantly die if you're not standing on your plate. So that's why I said at the beginning, you need to memorize your plate, because you need to sprint to your plates. By the way, if someone does die trying to get to their plate, someone on a different plate near them can hop off, revive them quickly, and get back to their plate in time. It's not all over. Then when all 6 people are standing on their plate, they're all going to drop down and have another view of Riven, but this time he's going to have a bunch of growths all over his body, and you need to pop those pimples. Like literally, you're going to fall slower than usual. Use a bow. A bow was just a 1-hit pop, but a sniper would be okay here too, like something that does a lot of damage, and you pop as many pimples as you can on Riven as you're falling down. Each one you pop is going to do more damage to him, so it's very important to pop as many as you can, but you want to be a little careful, because every time you pop a pimple, you're actually going to have those taken seeking orbs fly out from them, and they will do a ton of damage. So if there's like 3 in front of you, don't just pop all of them and then leave them, because those taken orbs will come and hit you and kill you. So pop all 3 and then whip out your auto rifle or something and shoot those taken orbs just to make sure you don't die, and then get back to popping. Now, once you're done falling down, popping those pimples, you want to just kind of look up and shoot any of the taken blights chasing after you, and then just continue as normal. Go to your room and begin doing all of the same stuff you did for floors 1 and 2 before. So flinching him or DPSing him, getting the Eye of Riven, activating the elevator, going up, doing the same thing, or the opposite thing I should say, getting to that 3rd floor again, and then you damage him just like you did before. Like, once you master one damage phase, it's the exact same for the other damage phase. So, once you've made it past 2 damage phases, you really don't want a 3rd, just because there's so much stuff that can go wrong, so hopefully you've done enough damage. And on the 2nd run of, falling down and popping those pimples, then, if you've done enough damage, you're going to take him to his final chunk of health. You can actually see in Riven's health bar, there's a little separation for that final 10%. Once you get to that final 10%, you have a new mechanic inbound. So, once you get him down to that final chunk, no matter where you are, it'll probably be as you're falling, popping pimples, your entire team is going to be teleported to the Ascendant Realm, as you see in the background gameplay. Now, while you're here, you won't be able to regenerate health, and your health will slowly go down over time. So, that's again, we're having those two warlocks on the Well of Radiance is super important. Not only will their super actually heal you, but they can charge their grenade and throw it down on the ground to create a buff that anyone goes over will get overshields and heal themselves. And they also have healing rifts too, so just a bunch of healing abilities that you're really going to need when you're in here. And also, when you're in here, you're going to have to do a jumping puzzle. Like, that's the main thing. All you need to do when you're in this Ascendant Realm is make your way to a taken portal at the other end of a jumping puzzle. But while you're moving along this jumping puzzle, again, you're going to be slowly dying, but more importantly, there's going to be a bunch of taken phalanxes that spawn, and obviously, they're going to try to boop you off the edge, which will kill you and it will be a disaster. So, make sure you actually take it slow. You have a decent amount of time in this jumping puzzle. Don't try to rush it too quickly. Rather, take a little bit of time and kill those dang ads. Make sure they don't get a jump on you. So make your way through the jumping puzzle, and I'm showing in the background exactly where to go and kill those ads. Heal up at intervals, like when people are getting a little bit low, pop a healing rift or use a super or something and heal up, and then eventually make your way to that taken portal, and going through there will take you to another room, and Riven is going to pop his head out of one of the openings yet again. His mouth is going to open, and you can see that taken blight. It's time for another damage phase. You need to put absolutely everything you got into him, like use your Celestial Nighthawks, use your Whisper, every single ounce of damage, because you need to do enough damage, or else you wipe your team and you have to start all over again. Now, once you do as much damage as you can, then he is going to kind of recoil backwards, and he's actually going to open up his mouth. And not only that, you have to go inside. So jump inside his mouth, make your way inside his gullet, and you're going to see a taken blight, as you can see right here. This is another damage check. You need to put everything you got into this as well. Like, you need to damage this. If you don't damage this blight, again, you wipe. So everything you got into this blight as well, and then it will complete. You will get a special item called the Ethereal Key, and this is actually used to open the end raid chest and get rewards. Now, we've got two things here, one good news and one bad news. The bad news is that you're not done. You've defeated this huge raid boss. You actually have one more encounter before you do actually beat this entire raid. The good news is that this is a checkpoint. You won't have to fight Riven again. If you die, you will be okay. You'll respawn here in his kind of gullet. So, we're now on the final encounter of the Last Wish raid. How do you do it? Well, you're all going to be starting here in his belly, and there's going to be Riven's heart, that little sphere at the very center. Now, randomly, one of you will have the buff Riven's chosen. That person can pick up this orb. As soon as you do pick it up, you're going to see a timer starting at 15 seconds in the left-hand corner of your screen. Now, you're going to need to transport this heart to a specific area. You're going to need to go through a bunch of enemies. I'm going to show you the exact route you need to go, but eventually you need to plant it in a specific area right next to the chest room, and that will complete this raid and allow you to get the end raid loot. But once this timer reaches 0 seconds, it will teleport you to this different realm. Here's where you're going to get teleported. Now, we'll talk about exactly what to do if you get teleported, but your job is basically to run this as far as you can before you get teleported, and then switch to someone else. Now, again, all of these buffs are random, so someone's going to get it at the start, they pick it up, run it as far as they can. When they drop it, someone else nearby is going to get picked. They pick up the heart and run it as far as they can. They're going to get teleported. Someone else picks up. Like, you keep do that. You keep passing this heart off to the next person until you eventually get to the very end. But there's a lot more mechanics going on. Most importantly, whoever has this heart is going to project a shield around them. This shield is going to start out very, very big and is slowly going to collapse and get smaller and smaller and smaller. If you're outside of the shield, you'll take damage, and you'll start to get a debuff when it gets to times 10, you'll instantly die. You get rid of the debuff by going inside the shield, so you have to be close enough to this person carrying the heart that you're not taking damage and dying from this debuff. Now, another thing you really need to be aware of is that when the person carrying the heart gets to 0 seconds and gets teleported, if anyone is really close by, they're actually going to be teleported as well. And this is really, really bad. You need to have as many people staying alive and not getting teleported as possible to extend the time period enough to make it all the way to the end. If like 3 people get teleported by accident at one time, it's, basically it's impossible to complete this. So you need to make sure that when the person is carrying the heart, they're actually counting down. They should be counting down literally the entire time. 15, 14, 13, all the way to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and once they get to that, 3, 2, 1, that's your cue to back off. Make sure you don't get teleported. It's going to drop at the ground, and when it drops, it'll actually still teleport you. It'll kind of do these different pulsating visuals, and if you're nearby when it's on the ground and it's doing that, you'll still get teleported. So wait until you see the text in the corner of your screen that someone can pick it up, and then that person picks it up, and you keep moving together as a team. Now, let's talk about defending the person who has Riven's heart. It is essential to kill the ads around this person, especially when you first come out of Riven's mouth. There's a ton of ads, and most importantly, there's a bunch of Taken Centurions that are shooting those seeking Taken orbs, and those orbs will go right for the person carrying Riven's heart. Like, they don't care about you, they'll go around you, they'll go right for that person. And it's likely to one-shot them. So you need to be killing those stupid orbs as quickly as possible. So supers that last a long time and kill a lot of people are essential. I'm talking Arc Strider with the Radiant Flux exotic chest piece. I'm talking Sentinel Titans with the Doomfang Pauldrons. I'm talking Stormcaller Warlocks with the Crown Tempest. Anything you have that's going to make your super last a ridiculously long time for killing a lot of enemies very fast is what you need to do. Like, I was using Stormcaller with the Crown of Tempest. That helped a ton. Like, my super lasts so long. That's exactly what you need, because you need to be killing all those ads around the person carrying Riven's heart, and you also need to be killing those seeking spheres that are coming for you as well. Now, where exactly do you take Riven's heart? Well, as you can see, you head through this main area. Once you get through there, you head off to the left. That's going to lead to kind of a jumping puzzle. There's actually going to be this kind of blackened ground, and if you're on the ground, you will take damage. So there's several different routes, but kind of use the route I'm showing. Head to the left and just keep jumping on objects to stay above that blackened ground. And then you're going to be presented with the vault area that you were in before, except one of the 3 different rooms between tree, ball, and rock are going to be open. Now, this is actually random. It's going to be different for every group and every time you do this. So whatever room is open, you head into that one, and you're going to have to go the long way around in those hidden tunnels to the ballroom because the short way is kind of blocked off. You need to have people with you because there's going to be Taken phalanxes in these little tunnels, and if you have a ball, you just can't get past them. They will kill you. There's also going to be a Taken Knight that spawns, but you really don't have time to kill this. Just run past it and try to avoid it. Once you get through here, courtesy of my teammate who made it all the way, you keep going to that vault area. There's going to be a central circle location. You drop down into that circle and then head to your immediate right. Look for the glowing room just outside of this chest room. You plant it in there, and congratulations, you have beaten the Last Wish raid. However, like I said before, people are going to be teleported along the way to this different Ascendant realm, and they have to do certain things in there. Mainly, it's their job to extend the time that you can run with Riven's heart. So, while you're in this separate Ascendant realm, your job is just to mainly stay alive. Like, use your supers to kill enemies, whatever you need to do, but stay alive because Taken strength blights are going to spawn just like they did with Swolgroth. Initially, there's only going to be 1. Now, when you collect that 1, it's going to extend the time by 15 seconds. So you actually want to make sure that you're collecting those blights at a point in time where an extension of 15 seconds would actually help. if you get teleported in and see that taken strength blight and you're like, oh sweet, I'm going to collect this, but the person who has it is at like 10 seconds, well, they go from 10 to 15, big whoop. But if you collect it when they're only at 5 seconds, 3 seconds, then they're going to go from 3 seconds to 15 seconds. That's huge. It is a little bit finicky. Like if you wait till 3 seconds and collect it, like sometimes it won't work. So I would highly recommend like 5 seconds, then collect those taken strength things, like collect the last one, because how it's going to work is in the Ascendant Realm, like I said, one is going to spawn at first, collect it, extend the time period. Then as more people get teleported in, there's going to be 2 that spawn, then more and then more. So eventually, to extend the time for the last few people, you just need to collect all of these taken strengths. But remember, you can only carry 2 at a time or you'll die. So, at the point in time when there's like 6 that spawn, you collect 2, someone else collects 2, someone else collects 1, and then waits on that very last one until the person counting is like 6, 5, 4, and then on 5, jump and get that last one. They'll jump back up to 15 seconds so that they can make this journey. So, in summary, get this heart through the Dreaming City to its proper location to complete the raid. You're going to have to switch off on people carrying it, stay near the people carrying it to first protect them, and second, avoid dying because it's going to produce a shield around the carrier. When you get teleported into the Ascendant Realm, make sure to collect those taken strengths at the right time to extend the time period so it's possible to make the entire journey, and know the route you are supposed to take. Guys, again, that's it. Now, at the very end, there's going to be a bunch of different chests, and you can only pick one. So it's kind of like deal or no deal, I guess. And some of these chests are going to have the brand new Last Wish exotic 1000 Voices heavy fusion rifle. This thing is nuts, and it's just your job to choose right, I guess. And again, guys, that is it for the raid, and that means that is it for the video. I really hope you enjoyed, found this informative, found this helpful. If you did, please remember to help me out by again rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. And if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.